The arena of Xiron Prime was a place of legend, whispered about in every corner of the galaxy. It was said that no alien, no matter how strong, had ever been able to lift the gravity blade, an ancient weapon that rested at the center of the massive circular floor. The blade itself was not enormous. It was long, sleek, and gleamed with a silver edge that seemed almost liquid, catching the light from the twin suns above. Yet it carried a power unlike any other, a gravity unlike any natural law. Those who tried to lift it discovered their strength meaningless. The more force they applied, the heavier it became. Crowds of all kinds filled the arena's stands. Creatures with scales, wings, multiple arms, and glowing eyes pressed together to witness the spectacle. Many of them had traveled from light years away to see the humans compete, or, more accurately, to see humans fail. Humans were considered weak by most species in this part of the galaxy. They had no tentacles to grapple with, no claws to pierce steel, and no natural exoskeletons to withstand extreme conditions. But humans had cunning, persistence, and sometimes unpredictability, the very traits that could turn a challenge on its head. The arena's gates opened with a metallic clang. The first challenger emerged, a massive alien with 6 arms, each ending in sharp claws. Its skin shimmered in shades of green and black, and its face had no mouth, only slits that seemed to breathe air like a bellows. The creature lumbered forward toward the pedestal where the gravity blade rested, each step shaking the ground slightly. The spectators held their breath. This was not just a test of strength. It was a test of the mind, the body, and the spirit. The alien reached for the blade, its claws stretching toward the weapon. As soon as it touched the hilt, the gravity blade reacted. The weight of the weapon multiplied, pressing against the alien's grip with a force that seemed unnatural. The alien let out a sound that was almost like a roar but more like a vibration, as it tried to hold onto the weapon. Its 6 arms strained, but the blade slipped from its grasp like it had never been touched at all. The alien tumbled backward, sprawling across the polished arena floor. The crowd erupted into cheers and laughter, a mixture of shock and amusement. No one was surprised by the alien's failure, but each attempt was always mesmerizing, a display of strength matched against the incomprehensible force of the gravity blade. One by one, other aliens came forward. A 4-winged creature that glowed with blue light attempted to lift the blade, but hovered a few inches above it before gravity slammed it down. A serpentine alien with glowing eyes and armored scales coiled around the pedestal, trying to leverage its entire body, yet it too fell short. The blade seemed almost alive, responding to every force applied with exact opposition. Spectators began to murmur about the weapon's sentience. "It's not just a blade," one commentator said. "It is intelligent. It knows who touches it and punishes those who rely only on brute strength." In the midst of this spectacle, a human stepped forward. Captain Elias Dre walked onto the arena floor with a quiet confidence that drew attention immediately. He was not the largest competitor. In fact, he looked smaller and weaker compared to the towering aliens around him. His armor was simple, designed for mobility rather than intimidation. His eyes were calm, observing the gravity blade as though he were inspecting a puzzle instead of a weapon that had defeated thousands before him. The murmur of the crowd turned into skeptical whispers. "A human," an alien commentator hissed, its multi-jointed fingers tapping nervously on the rail. "They cannot even lift standard rifles, and you expect them to lift that." Elias took slow, deliberate steps. His boots barely made a sound against the polished floor. He reached the pedestal and looked at the blade, feeling the faint vibration that radiated from it. Unlike the aliens, he did not try to overpower the weapon. He did not lunge, grab, or strain. Instead, he extended his hand gently, letting the tips of his fingers brush the hilt. The arena held its breath. The blade twitched slightly, as though testing him, before it hovered lightly above the pedestal. It was the first time anyone had seen the weapon move without resistance, and even the most skeptical spectators leaned forward, eyes wide. The aliens in the stands were confused. "How is he doing that?" one growled. "It must be a trick," another said. But there was no trick. Elia's fingers held the blade in perfect equilibrium, and he did so with almost no effort at all. There was a subtle intelligence in his movements, tiny adjustments in his wrist and fingers, almost imperceptible, but enough to communicate with the weapon. The gravity blade seemed to respond to intent rather than force. For the first time, a human had done what no alien could. As Elias lifted the blade slightly higher, sparks of light danced along its edge. The energy it emitted was mesmerizing, reflecting off the walls of the arena and casting long shadows across the spectators' faces. Aliens gasped, unable to believe their eyes. The commentators, who had spent their lives analyzing galactic competitions, were at a loss for words. "It is balancing on his fingers," one whispered, disbelief in its voice. "Impossible." Elias took a deep breath. The arena's artificial gravity had begun to shift, subtle currents moving through the air, designed to test the competitors' stability. Rocks floated briefly, then were pulled down in unpredictable arcs. The blade wavered, responding to these shifts, but Elias adjusted almost instinctively. His eyes followed the weapon's edge, reading every vibration, every pull of force, every tiny fluctuation in weight. The aliens who had struggled with the blade could not comprehend the subtlety of this interaction. Strength alone was useless. Balance, intuition, and calmness were what mattered. The crowd began to notice the change in energy. What had started as a show of brute strength became a demonstration of precision and mastery. Some aliens began to nod in grudging respect. They could see that humans, underestimated as they were, had a unique advantage. The way Elias interacted with the gravity blade was more than skill, it was artistry. Every motion was deliberate, every adjustment precise. He moved like water flowing around rocks, adapting to the blade's weight rather than forcing it. Then came the test of endurance. The arena's floor began to shift, tilting at angles designed to challenge the competitor's balance. A high wind system activated, creating gusts strong enough to push the largest aliens off their feet. Elias adjusted his stance, shifting his weight carefully, keeping the blade perfectly balanced on his two fingers. Sparks of energy ran along the hilt as if the weapon was approving of his technique. The audience erupted into applause, unable to contain their excitement. Even the most skeptical aliens leaned forward, some letting out sounds that might have been laughter or awe. The moment stretched. Seconds felt like minutes. The alien challengers had fallen, one after another, but Elias remained standing, calm and composed. His small frame seemed almost fragile next to the hulking forms that had tried and failed, yet he held the blade with a confidence that made even the strongest spectators pause. The lesson was clear. Power alone could not overcome the gravity blade. Only those who understood the balance of intent, mind, and body could command it. Finally, Elias lifted the blade higher, holding it at arm's length. The sparks along its edge intensified, illuminating his determined face. He rotated it slowly on his two fingers, demonstrating complete mastery. The spectators erupted, their cheers shaking the arena. Aliens who had scoffed at humans now watched in stunned silence, unable to deny the skill and precision before them. Captain Elias Dre, a human of modest size and quiet demeanor, had done what no alien had ever achieved. He had interacted with the gravity blade, not with force, but with intelligence and calm. At that moment, the arena seemed to recognize a new truth. Humans, underestimated for centuries, were capable of greatness beyond sheer strength. In the vast galaxy where size, power, and intimidation often ruled, a human had shown that ingenuity and skill could surpass all expectations. And for the first time, The legend of the gravity blade was not just about strength. It was about the mind that could master it. As the crowd roared, Elias lowered the blade slightly, still balancing it delicately. He smiled, a quiet, confident expression that suggested he had only just begun to understand the weapon's potential. Aliens whispered among themselves, their pride shaken but their respect growing. The story of this human, the one who had balanced the gravity blade on 2 fingers, would spread across the stars, challenging every assumption about humanity's place in the galaxy. And so the first part of the trial ended, not with brute victory, but with a revelation. Strength was not the only measure of a warrior. In the universe's vast arenas, where power had often been the deciding factor, a human had shown that balance, intelligence, and patience were forces just as mighty, capable of bending even the most impossible challenges to their will. Elias Dre stood in the center of the arena, the gravity blade hovering lightly above his 2 fingers. The spectators had gone silent for a moment, stunned into disbelief. Even the aliens who had dominated countless arenas across the galaxy were speechless. No one had ever seen a human move the blade, much less balance it with such perfect precision. But Elias did not focus on the crowd. He focused on the weapon, on the subtle pull of its weight, on the faint energy that ran along the edge, and on the shifts in the artificial gravity that surrounded him. The gravity blade was not just a weapon, it was a test. It was alive in a way that few could understand, and Elias knew that to master it, he would need more than strength. The arena floor began to shift again, slowly at first, then more aggressively. Sections of the polished platform tilted, rose, and fell like the waves of a violent sea. Rocks and metal debris floated briefly in the air, then fell, smashing against the arena walls with thunderous force. Wind turbines along the ceiling spun to full speed, creating gusts that could push even the heaviest alien warriors off balance. This was the next stage of the trial, endurance under chaotic conditions. Most challengers had failed here, their muscles strong but their focus weak. Elias, however, adjusted his stance, feeling the subtle vibrations of the floor through his boots. He spread his feet slightly, leaned forward, and let the gravity blade guide his movements. The blade responded immediately. Its weight shifted with every tilt of the floor, but instead of resisting, Elias allowed the weapon to flow with him. It was a delicate dance. He moved like water flowing around obstacles, letting the blade respond to his intent rather than forcing it to obey. He had learned long ago that human strength alone could not compete with the larger, more powerful species of the galaxy. Intelligence, patience, and adaptability were his tools. And now, facing the gravity blade, he wielded those tools with absolute mastery. From the stands, alien spectators leaned forward, their many eyes widening in disbelief. Some whispered to each other. "The human, he is not using force," one hissed. "He is guiding it, teaching it, controlling it without touching it fully." Another, larger alien with silver scales shook its head slowly. "Impossible. No species could do this. Humans are small, fragile, yet he balances it like it is weightless." The words carried through the arena, a mixture of fear and awe. As Elias moved, he noticed subtle patterns in the blade's energy. Tiny sparks danced along its edges, almost like living creatures reacting to his touch. They were not random. They shifted in response to his focus, to the intention behind his movements. Most beings approached the blade with aggression, with a desire to dominate it. That had been their mistake. Elias approached it with calm curiosity and respect. He did not try to overpower it, he tried to understand it, and the gravity blade responded. Suddenly, the arena doors opened at the far end, and a new challenger entered. This one was unlike any other. A massive quadrupedal alien with 4 muscular legs, each ending in thick talons and a long, whip-like tail. Its head was crowned with horns that curved backward, and its eyes glowed a deep crimson. Known across several systems as Thrix the Crusher, this alien was feared for its brute strength and ruthless fighting style. It stomped forward, each footfall causing vibrations in the floor, and bared rows of jagged teeth that glimmered in the arena lights. Thrix approached Elias, circling slowly, testing the human's reaction. The gravity of the arena shifted again, stronger this time, creating currents that threatened to unbalance him. Many challengers would have panicked, but Elias remained calm. He tilted his body slightly, letting the blade's subtle vibrations guide him. He understood that balance was not just in his fingers but in every part of his body. The gravity blade was an extension of himself, and he moved as one with it. Thrix lunged suddenly, aiming to knock the weapon free. Its massive horns glinted, and its talons stretched out like blades. Many humans would have been crushed instantly, but Elias was prepared. With a swift sidestep and a slight twist of his wrist, he shifted the blade's position just enough to deflect the attack. The sparks along the edge flared brightly, as if signaling victory over the alien's aggression. Thrix growled, the sound shaking the arena, but it could not touch the blade. Elias' control was perfect. The audience gasped. Aliens and humans alike realized something extraordinary. Elias was not only holding the gravity blade, he was controlling it in ways no one had thought possible. The blade responded to his intent, his subtle movements, and his balance. It was as if he had become one with it. Aliens who had relied solely on brute force were powerless. Strength alone was no match for precision and understanding. Elias began to move through the arena, spinning slowly, adjusting to every gust of wind, every shift in gravity, every vibration of the floor. The gravity blade remained perfectly balanced on two fingers. Rocks and metal debris floated past him, yet he did not falter. Thrix lunged again, faster this time, but Elias' movements were almost effortless. With a slight turn of his wrist, he let the blade counter the attack, moving in a fluid arc that would have seemed impossible to any observer. Spectators erupted into applause and shouts, though many were unsure if they were celebrating or in disbelief. Alien commentators tried to make sense of what they were witnessing. "It is not strength," one whispered. "It is skill, technique, and intelligence. He is teaching the blade, not fighting it." Another added, "No alien has ever done this. No one but a human." Elias did not look at the crowd. He was focused entirely on the weapon and the arena. He knew that the next stage of the trial would be even more dangerous. The arena's gravity would shift violently, and artificial hazards designed to test the endurance of even the strongest warriors would activate. Most competitors had failed at this stage, overwhelmed by fear or force. Elias had to rely on every ounce of concentration, every memory of balance and precision he had learned in his life. The gravity field intensified suddenly. Rocks, metal shards, and debris were flung through the air at unpredictable angles. A series of magnetic pulses began, pulling at the metal edges of the arena and at the blade itself. The sparks along the gravity blade's edge danced wildly, reacting to the chaos. Aliens struggled to maintain footing, slipping and sliding across the tilting floor. Many shouted, their voices lost in the roar of the arena. Elias shifted his stance, planting his feet firmly. He felt the weight of the blade as it responded to the currents of force around him. He made small, deliberate adjustments in his fingers and wrists, letting the weapon's energy flow through him. He could feel the slight pull of the magnetic pulses and compensated instantly. His movements were precise, almost mechanical, yet fluid. He had become a master of balance, a human who could read the rhythm of chaos and move in perfect harmony with it. Thrix attacked again, faster and more aggressively. Its massive form barreled toward Elias, aiming to knock him off balance. Elias did not move backward. Instead, he pivoted, spinning the blade in a wide arc that deflected the attack without losing control. Sparks shot along the blade, illuminating the arena like lightning. Thrix stumbled but did not fall, growling in frustration. It had never faced an opponent who could match the weapon's unpredictability with calm precision. The crowd was on its feet, cheering, shouting, and gasping at every move. Aliens whispered among themselves, their pride shaken. Humans, long considered weaker than almost every other species in this region of the galaxy, were proving they could surpass expectations. Elia's calm mastery of the gravity blade had become a symbol of human ingenuity. The spectators began to see that strength alone could be defeated by intelligence, skill, and adaptability. Elia's body moved like a river, adjusting to every pull and shift of the arena. The gravity blade remained perfectly balanced on his two fingers, responding to his intent, flowing with his movements. He realized something profound. The weapon did not resist him. It challenged those who approached it with arrogance and force, but it responded to those who approached with focus, understanding, and respect. Humans, underestimated for so long, had an edge no brute force could counter. The final challenge for this stage activated. Gravity disruptors along the arena floor began firing, creating areas of shifting weight that could topple even the strongest alien warrior. Rocks and debris spun violently, creating a chaotic obstacle course. Most competitors had failed here, their strength useless against the unpredictable environment. Elias took a deep breath, letting his body move instinctively. He flowed with the shifting currents, letting the blade guide his movements. His focus was absolute. For a moment, time seemed to stretch. The blade hovered, balanced, and Elias moved with it as if they were one being. Thrix lunged once more, but Elias deflected the attack effortlessly, spinning in a wide arc and adjusting for every shift in the arena. The spectators erupted into uncontrollable cheering. Humans had always been underestimated, but Elias' mastery of the gravity blade proved that ingenuity, skill, and adaptability were just as important as strength. By the end of the trial, Elias stood in the center of the arena, the gravity blade hovering perfectly above his two fingers. Sparks ran along its edge, illuminating his determined face. Aliens bowed their heads in respect, acknowledging that they had witnessed something extraordinary. Elias had not just lifted the blade, he had mastered it. The crowd roared as Elias lowered the weapon slightly, still balanced perfectly. He smiled quietly, knowing that this was only the beginning. The gravity blade had more secrets, more tests, and more challenges ahead. But for now, he had proven that no alien could match a human's precision and understanding. Humans, underestimated for centuries, had shown that skill, patience, and intelligence could defy even the most impossible challenges in the galaxy. The arena of Xiron Prime had never witnessed anything like it. Elias Dre, a human, had balanced the legendary gravity blade on two fingers through the first stages of the trial. The alien spectators were still struggling to comprehend it, whispering among themselves in disbelief. Strength alone, they realized, was no match for the subtle intelligence and skill of a human. But the arena had more surprises waiting. This stage was designed not just to test balance or precision, it was meant to break even the strongest will. The floor shifted violently, rising in jagged platforms and dropping into deep trenches. Gravity currents surged unpredictably, pulling competitors toward walls and ceilings. Above, the arena ceiling opened, releasing swirling vortexes of wind and debris. Sparks of plasma shot across the space, cutting streaks of light into the air. Only the most adaptable could survive. Many aliens had already fallen in previous trials, their strength and instinct useless against these chaotic forces. Elias adjusted his stance immediately. He felt every vibration of the floor through his boots, every pull of the gravity currents through his arms. The gravity blade responded to him, shifting slightly but never slipping. It was alive in a way he had never experienced before, reacting to his intent, anticipating his movements. He understood now that brute force would accomplish nothing. Every adjustment had to be precise, every motion deliberate. From the entrance of the arena, Thrix, the massive quadrupedal alien, rose to its full height. Its red eyes glowed like molten fire, and every muscle in its body tensed. Thrix had failed to knock Elias off balance in previous attempts, but now it seemed more determined than ever. It lunged forward, tail whipping like a whip, horns aimed directly at Elias' head. The floor beneath them tilted sharply, almost throwing Elias off. He shifted his weight instantly, spinning the blade in a smooth arc to counter Thrix's attack. Sparks flew as the blade cut through a swirl of plasma currents released from the arena ceiling. Thrix skidded across the floor, talons scraping the polished surface. Elias did not flinch. He had learned to move not against the chaos, but with it. Every gust of wind, every shift in gravity, every lurch of the floor became part of the rhythm he followed. Other competitors, watching from the edges of the arena, struggled to maintain balance. A six-armed alien with silver scales tried to advance, but the shifting gravity sent it tumbling into a pit of glowing plasma. Another, a towering creature with tentacles ending in razor-like tips, leapt toward Elias but miscalculated the blade's sudden movement. The gravity blade seemed almost intelligent, slipping away at just the right moment to avoid contact, and the alien fell, stunned and frustrated. Elias moved like a river through the chaos. He twisted, pivoted, and balanced, letting the gravity blade guide his actions. Each movement was almost imperceptible, yet perfectly calculated. He realized that the weapon was not trying to resist him. It was trying to see if he could understand it, if he could become one with it. Most challengers had approached with aggression and failed because they tried to dominate the blade. Elias approached with respect and focus, and the blade responded. Suddenly, a new threat emerged. From the upper platforms of the arena, a swarm of small, flying drones descended. They were equipped with high-energy disruptors designed to interfere with the gravity blade's balance. The drones darted around him like angry hornets, creating gusts and pulling at the weapon with magnetic tethers. Many challengers would have panicked, but Elias remained calm. He adjusted his fingers minutely, tilting the blade in the exact opposite direction of the pull. Sparks shot along the edge, illuminating his face in flashes of blue and gold. The crowd gasped. Aliens who had relied on size, strength, and intimidation could not respond as effectively. Elias' calm focus allowed him to maneuver the blade, deflecting the drones' attacks and maintaining perfect balance. The arena's hazards were designed to overwhelm, but he used them to his advantage. Each disruption became part of his rhythm, each attack an opportunity to demonstrate his control. Thrix lunged again, more aggressively than before, aiming to topple Elias once and for all. Elias spun, letting the gravity blade counter the attack in a wide arc. Sparks flew as the edge of the weapon met the alien's horns and claws. Thrix stumbled but did not fall, roaring in frustration. Elias' control of the blade was not just about balance. It was about predicting and responding to chaos before it fully manifested. He had become an extension of the weapon, and the weapon an extension of him. The arena floor tilted sharply again, and this time, a deep trench opened beneath Elias. Debris floated into the air, creating a maze of obstacles. Most challengers had been crushed or thrown into the abyss at this stage. But Elias moved with uncanny precision, pivoting on one foot, leaning slightly, and letting the gravity blade respond to every shift. He twisted and spun, almost dancing through the chaos, balancing on two fingers in a way that seemed impossible to every eye in the arena. From the stands the crowd erupted. Aliens whispered in disbelief. "He is controlling it with thought," one said. "It is not the blade controlling him," another replied. "He is guiding it." Guiding the weapon itself. The humans who had come to watch cheered, proud and astonished. For centuries, their species had been underestimated across the galaxy, but here, one human proved that intelligence, precision, and calm determination could surpass strength and size. Elias' attention returned to the gravity blade. He noticed subtle changes in the energy flowing through it. Sparks ran along its length, moving in patterns that suggested intelligence. The weapon was reacting not just to physical balance but to intent. It tested him, challenging his focus, but he responded with patience and precision. Every adjustment was tiny, almost imperceptible, yet enough to maintain the perfect balance. Above, the arena ceiling began to release heavier obstacles, spinning disks of metal, plasma streams, and chunks of debris moving in unpredictable patterns. The wind intensified, and the magnetic pulses from the floor grew stronger. This was the final test of Part 3. Survive the chaos while maintaining control of the gravity blade. Many aliens had failed at this stage, their muscles strong but their minds overwhelmed. Elias had only one advantage: focus, and he used it fully. He twisted his wrist, tilted his fingers, and let the blade flow with him. Rocks and debris bounced off the edge of the weapon without dislodging it. Plasma streams passed beneath him, barely missing his boots as he spun and adjusted his balance. Thrix attacked again, but Elias pivoted at the perfect moment, letting the blade deflect the assault. Sparks flared, illuminating his determined face, and the crowd erupted into a deafening roar. Elias moved through the chaos like a river flowing around obstacles. The gravity blade responded perfectly, balancing on his two fingers with no hint of slipping. The energy along its edge danced in harmony with his movements. He realized that this stage was not just about survival, it was a lesson. The gravity blade tested strength and resilience, but it rewarded intelligence, focus, and calmness. Aliens who relied on brute force had been eliminated. Elias relied on understanding and adaptation, and it had carried him through. Thrix made one final lunge, faster and more ferocious than any before. Elias spun, pivoted, and shifted the blade's angle perfectly. Sparks shot across the arena, cutting arcs of light into the chaos. Thrix stumbled, growling in frustration, but Elias remained balanced. For the first time, the alien realized it was facing an opponent it could not overpower. A human, smaller and seemingly weaker, had mastered the legendary gravity blade in ways no alien could imagine. The crowd was on its feet. Humans cheered, aliens whispered in astonishment, and commentators struggled to describe what they had witnessed. Elias lowered the blade slightly, maintaining perfect balance, and took a slow breath. The final challenge of Part 3 was complete. He had survived the arena's most violent hazards, deflected the most aggressive attacks, and maintained mastery of the weapon. He had proven that humans could surpass brute force through intelligence, skill, and determination. For Elias, the victory was not about pride or glory. It was about understanding. The gravity blade had more secrets, more challenges, and more tests ahead. But he now knew something important. The weapon responded to intent, to balance, to harmony between mind and body. Aliens who relied on aggression and force could never achieve this level of mastery. Humans, underestimated for centuries, had an advantage that no one had recognized. As the arena quieted, Elias looked at Thrix, who had stopped moving, breathing heavily and glaring in frustration. The alien slowly bowed its massive head in respect, acknowledging that the human had bested it not through strength, but through mastery of skill and understanding. The crowd erupted again, the noise echoing across the galaxy. Elias smiled quietly, holding the gravity blade perfectly balanced. He knew that Part 4 would be the ultimate test, the final stage of the trial where the blade's full power would be revealed. But for now, he had proven that a human could achieve the impossible. The gravity blade, once considered untouchable, had been tamed, not by force, but by the intelligence and precision of a single human. And in that moment, the galaxy began to reconsider what it meant to be strong. Humans, long dismissed as weak, were showing that true power came not from size or muscles, but from mind, skill, and the courage to face challenges with calm determination. Elias Dre, balancing the gravity blade on 2 fingers, had become a living testament to that truth. The arena of Xiron Prime had never been this tense. Every alien, every human, every being in the stands watched with bated breath. Elias Dre, a single human, stood at the center, holding the gravity blade delicately on 2 fingers. Sparks of energy danced along its edge, illuminating his calm, focused face. The previous stages had tested strength, endurance, and skill, but this final stage would test everything: mastery, intelligence, courage, and heart. The arena changed immediately. The floor shifted into a complex pattern of platforms, some rising high into the air, others dropping into deep pits glowing with plasma. Gravity currents surged in unpredictable ways, sometimes pushing upward, sometimes sideways, sometimes spinning Elias around. The ceiling opened, releasing massive energy spheres that drifted downward like deadly moons. It was the ultimate test, a combination of every hazard from before, amplified tenfold. Elias adjusted his stance instantly. He felt every shift in the floor through the soles of his boots, every pull of the shifting gravity through his legs and arms. The gravity blade responded to his slightest touch, hovering perfectly on 2 fingers. Elias understood now that it was more than a weapon. It was a living challenge, testing not brute strength but the harmony between mind, body, and intent. Most creatures could not survive this stage. He was ready. From the entrance, Thrix emerged again, more furious than ever. Its glowing red eyes fixed on Elias and its tail whipped violently. It had failed before but would not fail again without a fight. Other alien challengers appeared as well, some crawling, some flying, some floating, each aiming to seize the gravity blade and claim victory. They all underestimated the human. The battle began. The first wave of hazards struck. Plasma spheres fell in rapid arcs. The floor tilted sharply, threatening to throw Elias into the pits below. Wind gusts tore across the arena. Aliens lunged and struck, attempting to topple him. Yet Elias moved like water. Every step, every pivot, every micro-adjustment in his fingers and wrist kept the gravity blade perfectly balanced. Sparks flared along its edge, reacting to the chaotic energy in the arena. Thrix lunged from above, horns aimed to strike, but Elias twisted at the last moment. The blade deflected the attack, spinning in a graceful arc. The energy from the impact flowed through the weapon and into his fingers, allowing him to anticipate the next hazard. Another alien, with wings like glass and claws sharper than any blade, swooped down. Elias tilted his body slightly, letting the gravity blade float in perfect balance above his hand. The alien missed, crashing into a rising platform instead. The crowd was on its feet. Aliens whispered in awe, some even bowing their heads in respect. Humans cheered, hearts pounding, witnessing what no other human had achieved before. Elias had become more than a competitor. He had become a master of harmony, of balance, of skill. The gravity blade was no longer just a weapon. It was an extension of his mind and body. The arena intensified further. Magnetic pulses surged, pulling the blade and Elias in unpredictable directions. Platforms spun like gears, energy arcs crackled across the floor, and gravity rotated sideways and upside down. Many challengers could not keep up. They slipped, fell, and were swept away by the arena's chaotic forces. But Elias remained. He flowed with the hazards, anticipating every pull, every push, every twist. He had learned to read the energy of the arena as if it were a living thing. Thrix charged again, faster, angrier, its muscles tensing like coiled springs. Elias pivoted smoothly, letting the blade's edge block the horns. Sparks of light shot across the arena, blinding some spectators with their brilliance. The alien stumbled but did not fall, its frustration growing. Elia's movements were precise and deliberate, almost dance-like. Every twist, every step, every rotation of the blade was calculated to maintain perfect equilibrium. The final trial had begun. From the arena ceiling, a massive gravitational sphere descended. Its energy field pulled with incredible force, threatening to rip the gravity blade from Elia's grasp. At the same time, smaller hazards, plasma streams, floating debris, and alien challengers converged from every direction. This was the ultimate test of mastery, designed to break even the strongest, most skilled competitors. Elias closed his eyes for a moment, focusing entirely on the gravity blade. He felt its weight, its pull, its energy, and most importantly, its intent. The weapon was not trying to harm him, it was testing him. It responded to those who approached with aggression by resisting, but it responded to those who approached with focus, skill, and balance by cooperating. Elias understood this instinctively. He opened his eyes and adjusted his fingers slightly, letting the blade rise higher, floating perfectly above his two fingertips. Thrix attacked from above. A massive leap, horns aimed for the human's head, tail lashing toward the blade. Elias twisted his body, spinning the weapon in a perfect arc. The blade struck the alien's horns, energy sparks shooting like lightning. Thrix tumbled across the arena floor, crashing against platforms, but Elias did not falter. His calm, precise movements kept the weapon steady, hovering above his hand. Other aliens charged, thinking they could overwhelm him with numbers. But Elias had learned to anticipate movement, to read energy, to adjust instantly. The gravity blade moved with him, not against him. He spun, pivoted, and balanced, letting the weapon deflect attacks and dodge hazards. Every alien strike, every falling platform, every plasma stream became part of the rhythm he followed. He had become one with the weapon and, in doing so, had transcended the limitations of human strength. The spectators were stunned. Aliens who had once considered humans weak were now witnessing an impossible feat. One by one, challengers fell, defeated not by brute force but by Elias' unmatched precision and harmony with the gravity blade. Sparks ran along the weapon's edge, illuminating his determined face in flashes of blue, gold, and silver. It was a display of skill, focus, and courage unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The final obstacle approached. From the arena's walls, massive energy columns erupted, creating waves of force designed to dislodge even the most careful competitor. Gravity shifted violently, pulling Elias toward the ceiling and then toward the pits. The floor spun like a wheel, and the plasma spheres descended in rapid succession. Thrix recovered and launched a desperate final attack, charging at Elias with everything it had. Elias moved as if he were a part of the arena itself. His body twisted and pivoted with fluid grace. The gravity blade followed his intent perfectly, deflecting hazards and attacks alike. Sparks flared brighter than ever, the energy of the weapon pulsing in harmony with his focus. He had become more than a human holding a weapon. He was a master of balance, a living demonstration that intelligence, skill, and courage could surpass raw strength. With a final, precise adjustment, Elias lifted the gravity blade high above his head, spinning it on two fingertips. Sparks of energy formed a halo around him, illuminating the arena in dazzling light. Thrix stumbled backward, defeated, its glowing eyes reflecting awe and disbelief. The remaining aliens froze, unable to approach, recognizing the mastery of the human before them. The crowd erupted into deafening cheers. Aliens and humans alike shouted, applauded, and gasped at the display. The commentators struggled to find words, finally resorting to awe-filled whispers. "A human has mastered the gravity blade," one said. "It is incredible, impossible, but it is real." Elias lowered the weapon slightly, still balanced perfectly. He looked around the arena, seeing the reactions of every spectator. Respect, amazement, and disbelief filled their faces. He knew that this victory was more than personal glory. It was a revelation. Humans, long underestimated, were capable of mastery, ingenuity, and courage beyond expectation. Strength alone did not define a warrior. Focus, intelligence, adaptability, and heart did. He turned to Thrix, the massive quadrupedal alien, still recovering from its defeat. The creature bowed its massive head, acknowledging Elia's skill and courage. Other alien competitors nodded in respect as well, recognizing that this human had achieved what no other being could. The lesson was clear. Mastery was not in muscle but in understanding, precision, and harmony. Elias smiled quietly. The gravity blade hovered steadily on his 2 fingers, sparks of energy running along its edge. He had survived the ultimate trial, conquered the final stage, and proven that humans could rise above expectations in a galaxy dominated by brute strength. The weapon had revealed its secrets to him, and he had risen to the challenge, not with force but with skill, focus, and courage. The arena's doors opened, and the audience surged forward cheering. Stories of Elias Dre, the human who balanced the gravity blade on 2 fingers, would spread across the galaxy. His victory became a symbol of human ingenuity, a testament to the idea that intelligence and precision could surpass even the most powerful forces. For Elias, the trial had ended, but his journey was only beginning. The gravity blade had tested him, taught him, and revealed the potential of a human mind in harmony with a weapon of legend. He knew there were greater challenges ahead in the galaxy, but he now understood one truth. Humans, underestimated for centuries, could achieve the impossible when they embraced skill, courage, and focus. And in that moment, as he held the gravity blade steady, Elias Dre became a legend. Not for his strength, not for his size, not for his species, but for his mastery, his intelligence, and his heart. The story of the human who balanced the gravity blade on 2 fingers would inspire generations, proving that the limits of one species were never the limits of the individual. The arena glowed with energy, the sparks of the gravity blade reflecting off every surface. Aliens whispered, humans cheered, and across the galaxy, the legend of Elias Dre began to spread. A single human had defied expectations, tamed a weapon no one thought could be controlled, and proved that true strength came from intelligence, focus, and courage. Elias lowered the blade fully, letting it hover lightly at his side. The arena quieted, the lights dimmed slightly, and the gravity current stabilized. He had completed the trial, survived the hazards, and demonstrated mastery. Yet, even in victory, he remained humble. The gravity blade had tested him, and he had responded with focus, patience, and understanding. That was the mark of a true warrior, not just strength, but wisdom. The galaxy had witnessed something extraordinary. Humans, often dismissed as weak and fragile, had shown that skill, intelligence, and courage could surpass even the greatest physical power. Elias Dre, balancing the gravity blade on 2 fingers, had become more than a victor. He had become a symbol of what humanity could achieve, and that symbol would endure for generations to come.